this time on Graveyard Carz.
We've got a really neat car coming through the shop.
With 10 Roadrunner builds under his belt, it's time for one more. A 1969 Hemi Roadrunner in A4 silver. But can Mark validate this rare bird when it's missing its fender tag?
One of the most important things, the fender tag was gone.
And what will it look like under the surface?
Rusty from the headliner down.
With work stacking up, is Mark getting too distracted?
I listen to it all now. I'm not playing your game because I'm eavesdropping.
Plus, the unseen art of interior.
These will be ready to go in the car. It's all in the prep. It's much like in the paint shop.
Exhaust, decals, driving, and delivery. Will this breakneck build have collateral damage?
I have nothing to do with Marty. I don't understand why my name's even brought up.
He just goes crazy.
Beneath the fog, behind the rust, sometimes they come back. There's only one internationally recognized Mopar master, Mark Warman, joined by his friends, family, and dream team, the Ghouls.
Nobody wants to take on the stuff that we take on.
Reviving the past.
100% untouched survivor.
Resurrecting the icons of American muscle.
We are the Shaolin priests of Mopar.
Uncovering stories.
It's the baddest car we have here.
And restoring dreams.
The most iconic muscle car on the planet.
Putting cars back where they belong. On the road.
Here we go.
Beyond a passion.
Oh, that's wild.
One man's obsession. With Mopar perfection. This is Graveyard Carz.
We've got a really neat car coming through the shop right now. 1969 Hemi Roadrunner automatic on the column. Now, for those of you who have been keeping score at Graveyard Carz, I would like you to know that this will be the 11th Roadrunner that we have restored at Graveyard Carz. 2 of which were Superbirds, and 1 was a 1969 Hemi Roadrunner convertible in Q5, automatic power window car, ultra rare car. So my point is, if you like Roadrunners, this is your neat episode. When the car came to us, it had a 440 in it, and I believe it was like a 1977 440 out of a motorhome. The original Hemi engine was gone. But in the trunk was a lot of Hemi stuff, the bolt-on stuff. We had the heads, we had the intake manifold, exhaust manifolds, carburetors, air cleaner, which had been chromed. Had to get the chrome off of it and redo that. But all of the key pieces to make it after we got a donor block were there. Plus, this car has the original numbers matching transmission. Now you can tell by looking at these old original photos that the car had been painted a funky green. It was a really ugly color. When originally it was A4 silver. So that's what we went back with, was the original A4 silver. The interior was a bench seat in pewter. Beautiful, striking combination. So in the world of rare, yeah, they made some Roadrunners, they made some Hemi cars in '69. But I don't think I've seen another one that was A4 silver, which is gonna be great because Will's pretty well versed with that color now. He understands the opacity, how transparent it can be. He did the 1969 Roadrunner for Don Jones, the exact same color. We've never done the pewter interior. This is a first for us. So I did know when I first talked to the owner of the car and looked at the photos, the interior wasn't in very good shape. It at least was all there and you could see the original color. Now this car was missing the original fender tag, no broadcast sheet. But there was enough original DNA on this car when it showed up that I was able to validate how it started life, what it should have, what it shouldn't have, what somebody took liberties, as Tony would say, with, so that I could put the car back exactly the way it was when it left the assembly line. One of the most important things in the world is the fender tag, which in this case was gone, but the dash VIN is there, very important because you can't make another one of those. The hidden body numbers. The one underneath the weather strip in the trunk lip gutter and the one on the back side of the radiator sport. Perfect condition, very legible, not rusty. All those things, plus the undercarriage DNA markers of all the torque boxes and reinforcements, all there. Those are the things you have to have when you're trying to make sure that a car is really what the owner says it is. When you look at this car from a body condition standpoint, which is one of the things that we have to immediately assess, that thing was beautiful. If you look at the trunk floor, you look at the inside floors, you look underneath the package tray, it was beautiful. It was original paint, clean enough, as they would say, you could eat off of it. It was that nice of a body. So once the car was able to sit through the long setbacks and waiting on the dipper and COVID and all that, once we were to that point, we disassembled it right away, got it sent out, got it dipped. Once we get these cars disassembled, just like always our protocol, we get the parts that need to be dipped that we're going to save, that we're not going to replace with new AMD parts or used parts. We get all those, we inventory them, we put them in the car so we can get the car loaded up so it can make a trip across town for the dipping. Now, one thing to note on this car was the hood. Since it still had the original Mopar part number on it of a 3417098, you might want to write that down, I had suspected the hood might have been replaced. But there was no damage, no evidence, no surrounding evidence to say that it was ever in an accident. So it's possible they just didn't get much paint on the bottom side of that hood from the factory. When the car came back from dipping, there were no surprises. There was a little bit of rust in the bottoms of the quarters. You could see that in the before pictures. A little patchwork that had been here and there, but boy, in a world of picking a car that you're going to restore, especially a 69 Roadrunner that has the ability to have just a multitude of problems on it, go back to Mr. Curtis's 68 Roadrunner, rusty from the headliner down. This was the opposite of that. This was a very, very nice body. In this case, we were able to save, because of the incredible condition of the body, the original doors, that hood that I mentioned, original fenders, and original trunk lid. That doesn't happen very often. Those things were really, really nice.
So this 1969 Hemi Roadrunner is the second A4 Silver that I've done, and it was almost done back to back. This one is just like the last one we did for Mr. Jones. Only difference is one has a black top, one's got a Hemi, the other one didn't. But as far as looking at their cars, they're both awesome, they're both unique, and love them both. This car was great to start with, which means the process goes a lot quicker. So the metal shop, there's not much time. Kick it out to the mud guys. They have them, they're kind of averaging about 4 to 6 weeks for them to get a car over to me. Once they got that car over to me, we can get going on the body. We got it over here, did our initial prime like we do every car. At that point, we kick it outside for about a week or two, bring it back in, block the car down, start with 220 all the way out to 600, blow the car apart. Then we paint the door jambs, fender jambs, all the jam work underneath the hood so we can get the car reassembled, final adjustments, some light fine tuning, and then at that point we're ready to get it in the booth and get our PPG base coat on it.
So when the Hemi Roadrunner showed up, it had a 1976 440 engine and automatic transmission out of a motorhome or something, none of which were even usable for this car. However, Mark rounded us up a correct date-coded Hemi engine for this project. In fact, so date-coded, it actually came out of a 69 Roadrunner post car. You can't do much better than that. Overall, the block was really nice and cleaned up very well. We were able to recondition the crank and rods and install 40-over pistons. We had the engine balanced with a new comp cam, and they complement each other very well. The heads that came with the car were bare, so we had to install new valves and springs from Mancini Racing. They also supplied us with the Trick aluminum rocker arm assemblies. So with all that assembly done, we had the drivetrain ready, waiting for the car when Will was done.
Now, one of the things that has to happen before we can put the interior in and start building out the rest of the car is it has to have a headliner, it has to have a vinyl top. So fortunately, we mentioned it before, and I don't want it to seem like we're idolizing this guy. He's nobody's idol, but around here, we've always just kind of been at the mercy of the upholstery shops. You know, when can they do it? How long is it gonna take them? That kind of thing. So now we just go over and tap Marty and say, okay, I need the vinyl top, here it is. We just got it in from Classic, I need the headliner put in it. And there's such a benefit to that. When you watch him install that headliner, you know he's professional, he knows what he's doing, because he's the guy that did it for the other shop for so many years. We really can't emphasize too much of what a lifesaver it's been. If you look at the cars and the pieces that he's had to make, like the headrest for the 69 Cuda and putting the seat kits on, it's an invaluable asset to the shop. And I think that what it's going to end up doing is down the road, you're going to see an increase in volume out of graveyard cars because it's one less obstacle to get these cars' taillights down the road.
So once we were done with our part, we kicked it over to Mark. They got the drivetrain in it. Then at that point, once the drivetrain's in it, the car kind of settles. We can readjust some gaps, fine tune it just a little bit. Then Mark kicks it back to me to do the V21 sport treatment on the hood, which is the dual stripes. Now, for years, we've always used PPG's Hot Rod Black. It's a great finish, looks amazing. But recently we partnered with this other paint company called 877 4 Paint Now. And they do a lot of the original colors, textures, our dashes, our silvers for the rally wheels, grills. For what we do, it's instrumental to make these cars even closer to factory. The stuff that the paint that they supply us with has the exact same flat finish, except that this has a textured finish. We didn't have it at the time when we did this car, but moving forward, we're gonna start spraying the hoods. So when you look at them at home, normally you see just two beautiful stripes that are flat. Now you're gonna see they actually should have a texture in them. I'm excited to be able to dial in what we do even more so. So we'll see how it goes. A little nervous, to see what the customer is gonna think because it's rough, but it is the correct way and that's how we're doing it moving forward. One of the luxuries we have now is we can up our game even further than what we're doing now.
This is the rear seat for a Roadrunner. And the first thing you want to do when you start covering one of these is to stretch something across the spring so that when you're done, you don't feel all of this edges of these springs when you sit on them.
Marty has to make sure of a lot of things before you put that big, beautiful new cover on. These are good quality. We get them from Classic. They probably get them from Legendary. They're an amazing, great quality parts. It's the right color and they're sewn right and they're heat pressed where they should be, but they got to be installed right. So I thought I would take a minute and let Marty have a moment in front of the camera. He's pretty good with it. He's very knowledgeable and he'll walk you through it. You're gonna learn something and maybe you're doing your own car at home. It's okay to learn from him too.
So you want to stretch this across there, just kind of taut. You don't want it so tight that you're bending the wires in or changing the shape of the seat. You just want to pull these across here, kind of snug. This is just a generic piece of fabric. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's not really stretchy. Of course, you don't want a rubber band on here because it's going to stretch and you're going to feel more. You want something that doesn't distort real easy.
We do give him a clean slate. We take an original seat frame and we sandblast it, we epoxy coat it, and then we paint it and top coat it. So he's working with a nice fresh canvas. That's a big advantage. The other thing is the little clips that you see him, he hasn't called that out, but those are called hog rings. A lot of you guys out there know what they are. A little mild piece of steel, use a special pair of pliers. That loops around and holds the fabric to the seat frame. So anytime you hear somebody talking about hog rings, that's what they're talking about.
Some of these springs aren't really stiff. This one is pretty stiff, but on some springs you'll be able to pull on that and pull it back a couple inches, and if you're not paying attention and pulling your material snug, yeah, you'll wind up with really out of shape. I run my hand back and forth across here all the time to make sure that, because there's clips under here that you can see through the material. I don't want to put them on top of a clip and make the bump larger, so I'll make sure I put them in between the clips that are already there. Same step over and over, kind of monotonous.
How long have you been doing this for, Marty?
About 38 years now, right out of high school. So now I'm gonna put this around the edge of the wire to help buffer and pad those bumps in the clips and the bumps for my hog rings so that they don't show through the cover and through the foam when I get to the end. This is actually just jute carpet padding is what I use. You can see when I squeeze the hog rings in there, they sink down into the padding, so when you put the cover over that, it's not gonna be a bump now, it's gonna float over that hog ring so that you don't feel it. One of these details that it seems like either people don't do or they just don't show.
These particular kits, the back seat kit that he's working on right now, that was the only part we couldn't get in time. We got the front seat covers, they were all sewn up. We got the back of the back from the manufacturer. What we couldn't get was the seat bottom. So what we do in that case is we call up Legendary, who makes all this material, and we have them send us enough material, the original material, And Marty sewed that up. So what you see him installing right now is something he sewed up, like you saw him on the other cars, kind of save the day. So yeah, we're almost doing everything except making the material ourselves. If you wonder how we know that we're getting the right fabric, when Stan's Upholstery closed down, I bought all of his original books. You ought to see the library of these things I've got. You name it, I can show you, even Brand X stuff, what the original material was, what the original part number was, what the original die lot was. I have the ability to duplicate the past because of these books, just like with our parts books when you go in our reference room. If you're going to be putting a car together that was built in 1969, you need the information that was available in 1969. That's what we do.
The glue that I use is just contact cement that you can pick up in most hardware places. I've been told that it's basically the same stuff that you do countertops with or vinyl flooring. It's just a little thinner so that you can spray it through a glue gun. Yeah, it's time to put the foam on now. And again, I'm just gonna glue this on with contact cement. Be generous with your glue when you're gluing foam. There's really not a lot of surface. It's foam, it's bubbles. There's actually really very little surface area on this. So if you don't put a lot of glue on it to bridge the bubbles, it doesn't stick real well.
Now, when you see him doing the final fit on this back seat, he's done all the prep work. That's why it goes on like it does. He's done everything to make sure that that's a perfect job in the end. It's all in the prep. It's much like in the paint shop. All of the guys that surround Will make that car look perfect before it gets painted. Then he walks in, he shoots his color on it, takes all the credit for it. But the fact is, it's all in the prep. It's not in the gun. It's in the prep.
Again, with the insults, I have nothing to do with seats. I have nothing to do with Marty. I don't understand why my name's even brought up or why we're continuing down this. But at this point, like his shirt said, I'm not even gonna cuss because I don't want you to have to bleep it, but he's f***ing psycho.
If you start putting this on and make sure that the tail underneath here is already pointing down, especially on the corners, it's really hard to roll that tail later. After I get done, I'll go around it like this and make sure the tail of that welt is facing downhill. Just try and get it turned while you're putting it on. It makes it a whole lot easier. I'm gonna finish buttoning this up around the bottom. These will be ready to go in the car.
Coming up, the '69 Hemi Roadrunner rolls into assembly as the Ghouls install the exhaust and the iconic Roadrunner decals.
I was really bad at them.
But will Mark let Dougie and Brian finish their work?
It's terrible.
Or let Will finish his sentence?
Who taught you? I don't know.
You.
Your dad, God rest his soul?
You, my dad's alive.
Out of kindness, I want to be involved in it, keep the scene alive. Folks, we are getting ready to install the exhaust system on our 1969 Hemi Roadrunner. You only have a few things left to do after the exhaust. What's left?
We got some running birds that need to be put on the doors.
Running birds on the doors.
Yeah, we got to finish up the splash shields inside the front fenders.
Splash shields in the front fenders.
Yeah.
Do we want to go put a windshield in it?
Do the windshield,
We can
the
do a
windshield
windshield
trim. Yeah.
Windshield trim. So 69 Hemi Roadrunner, just out of curiosity, maybe you guys can help me out. I'm getting a little old. 69 Roadrunner, two-door post,
Right.
426 Hemi automatic. How many you guess?
43.
Your guess?
349.
Pretty good on both parts. It was actually 162.
When I first started here, Dougie warned me that Mark likes to put people on the spot on camera. And now I see what he means. I guess before I go on set next time, I will memorize everything I can about these cars.
Wow.
Now say it was a hardtop, how many did they build?
Ooh, more? I'd say
More.
like 700 or 800. 350.
Yours is more close,
Ah.
without going over. You went way over. It's 187.
Oh, wow.
I tried to warn Brian, I really did, but then I forgot to prepare myself. It's like those stupid pop quizzes in school. I was really bad at them, but I'm worse at this.
So it's not bad though, but not many, right? You're talking about two-door hardtops and two-door posts all combines what, 300?
300
some?
cars, yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty amazing. Let's
But-
install some
yeah.
exhaust system. You have any questions of me, sir?
Let's do it.
All right, Dougie, should we get some straps in place here? Get our
Yes.
H-pipe going, yeah?
Yes, sir.
What's the first part you're gonna put on, gentlemen?
The H-pipe.
The H-pipe. These are aluminized, so they're not quite as heavy as the original cold-rolled steel. And don't let me get in your way. I'm just here to kind of
All right.
drive this whole bit as long as I can take you to.
Now, Doug, do we want that blue strap in place for this H-pipe?
Why don't I just help you out?
We have
Go
to
ahead
roll
and
it
set
in.
that bad boy down there.
Mark
and
just
I'll
helped us out.
give him a hand here, if I can. Here to help them in any way that I can. You believe that, don't you?
I believe that.
I believe
right.
you, Mark.
Okay.
All right, let's
I'm gonna
get up
come
over the
around.
red here.
You guys say too. I'm going to come around to the front, so I don't want a H-pipe in the head
You don't.
or the ass or anywhere else.
Okay,
I
so
see.
we're gonna
Now,
feed your side up
But
first.
yeah, so let's hold off on this because we actually have to come up at a strange angle here.
One of the things that I like to do is, as a car is going through the shop, at some point work on it. I hadn't done anything on this particular car, so I wanted to help the guys put the exhaust system in. This is an accurate exhaust system from Accurate down the road, but it's a piece of cake. Piece of cake. You don't need me. We had his daughter out on one of the episodes. She put it in faster than all my employees put together do it. So it's a simple system. I also wanted to be involved because we're filming it. And I love you, my audience, too much to put you through that. It's miserable, guys. It's terrible.
So we're gonna do this 68 times.
You had to say that.
Do I need to point them all out or do you got them memorized?
Let's go back to one.
Let's go back to one.
I am already confused.
They're trying to be entertaining, they're trying to be funny, it's like the kid that gets the Mr. Microphone for Christmas, right? Just keep that crap in the box until Christmas is over. Do everybody a favor, right? It's like Dougie when he got the little 8mm camera for Christmas one year. I was thinking, God, this is gonna be a long holiday. So out of kindness and compassion, which I'm a very compassionate person, I wanted to be involved in it and keep the scene alive.
To get into this.
No problem. Here to help if I can.
All right,
Oh,
Doug.
looking good right there.
Doug, can you
Hold
push
on.
the back end up
All
just a
I'm
little
doing is
bit?
holding it, Tiger.
There we
I
go.
ain't hurting nobody. If that's what you're trying to get to, where I'm hurting somebody, you're just dead wrong.
What is he talking about? All I said was hold on. And he goes nuts, like over the top. This is why I'm terrified all the time. He just goes crazy, like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Watch out because I'm Cocoa Puffs! Cocoa Puffs! Cocoa Puffs! Cocoa Puffs!
All right, there we go. I'm in.
How are we looking, Brian?
Not too bad. I think we're gonna have to put those longer bolts in there and pull it into place on this side.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll grab those bolts if you got her.
I got her.
Okay.
Well, the only reason we're filming it with 3 people is because I wanted people to see what I have to deal with
Well, you have to
on a
do
daily basis. Yeah. So I'll step back out of the way while they work there. There you go.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay. So the guys have the H-pipe in place now. It's just bolted, temporary. You don't need to watch this. Start putting the mufflers on.
I gotta agree with Dougie here. Mark's as knowledgeable as they come, but sometimes I'm starting to wonder if his old clutch is starting to slip.
Dougie, remember when your daddy bought you those purple hornies for your Barracuda?
Never did.
Interesting. Where'd they come from?
Brooks Auto Parts.
Brooks Auto Parts.
$9.95 a pair. I bought them myself with my paper out money.
What paper route? You're talking about the paper route for the Springfield News on South 4th Street? They had 9 customers. The entire paper was 3 pages? That's your paper route? You're gonna save enough money when you're 12, by the way, up until the time you're 18, so you can go out and buy purple hornies? With the money you earned from a paper route that only paid a nickel? This is what I'm talking about. It isn't the crime of having something given to you, it's the cover-up. This is what got Nixon in trouble. You didn't have a paper route.
The heck I didn't.
Yeah, when you were 3.
Springfield News, 85 cents a month.
Yeah, but you didn't have the Barracuda at the same time.
Yeah, I had a paper route when I was 11 or 12. It was more than 9 houses. My houses were 20 miles apart. Mark just had to go up one block, over and back home. But that's not the point. I bought my parts from Brooks Auto Parts, cheapest parts around. They're closed now. I paid $20 for a pair of glass pack mufflers called Purple Hornies. This came out of my own pocket, out of my savings. My dad didn't buy those for me. You know how I figured out how to make change? So I go up with this little ticket and I'd hand it to the guy and I said, I'm collecting for the Springfield News. And he'd give me back a big round circle and a smaller circle. And I knew that was right, 85 cents. I got 15 cents back. I learned that all by myself.
Well, which one was the big round
And that's
circle?
the
Dougie?
threshold.
The nickel.
Nickel.
All right, have fun, guys.
Well, thank you, Mark.
Let me know if you need anything. A walking two-legged
Let's
miracle.
get these loose. Just.
You know how I knew this was the right muffler?
Why is that?
Because it said right on the front of it.
Oh yeah.
All right, so the guys did a fantastic job putting the exhaust system. I went back through, made sure everything was where it was supposed to be. The clamps are correctly tight. The trajectory of the exhaust tips going out the back, they did do a beautiful job on it. It's a good system, did a great job on it.
A couple small adjustments and we're good.
And I saved you guys, you know, by the way, I did save you a lot of their silliness. And I think that, you know, I have people at home say, oh yeah, you say that, you know, so you look really good. It's nothing to do with me looking good. It's just a fact of the matter. So some things that I've had to sit there on Sunday and go through my edits and go, God, cut that. That ain't funny, that's them. So for those of you who don't believe me, I thought, well, I would just give you an example of what I have to deal with. So sit back, raise the curtains, dim the lights. This is it, we'll hit new heights. And oh, what heights we'll hit. On with the show, this is it.
You wish you were a little taller?
Sometimes. Wish I was a baller. Wish I had a rabbit in a hat with a bat and a 6'4" rolling. Remember that song?
No, you lost me there.
You know, there was this thing called MTV, Doug,
There we go.
and they used to actually play music videos.
There was a guy on there that I just loved. I forgot what his name was. That guy with the fuzzy picture that always talked real fast for Coca-Cola. You know what I mean? Stuttered all the time. Max Headroom.
Oh, Max Headroom.
He was my favorite.
How would you like to sit through 15 minutes of that? And be honest, all right? So just to refresh everybody's memory, we've done a lot of graphics over the years. I mean, we've done a lot of graphics. You name the car, billboards, and we've done hockey sticks, and we've done bumblebee stripes. On the Roadrunners, we've done every real desirable year. So we did our 1968 Roadrunner with the Decor package, really cool setup, all the way up through Mr. Gay's 1971 Roadrunner with the over-the-roof stripe. So we've done our share of graphics. Go back to the very first vinyl graphics you ever watched us install. This was on our 1970 Roadrunner. The car's an FC7. It received the reverse deck lid stripe in white, as well as the Roadrunner dust trail. Installing these stripes is difficult, even for me, who's done it quite a bit. One of the most troubling areas of the rear transverse stripe is getting it perfectly level and centered so that you have the same reveal, the same wrap around the edges, the same trajectory from the deck lid over to the left and the right quarter extensions. Another trick is when you're pulling the backing paper off these things. There are small sections of the bird, like the beak, that like to tear off when you pull the backing paper off. I had it happen to me on that very first car, so I know it can happen. Going slow, pulling the paper at the right angle so as to not pull the decal apart is the name of the game. The 1970 Roadrunner in purple was my first transverse stripe that I ever installed. I got better as the years went on. I think out of the 9 cars that we had done the transverse stripe on the Roadrunners, 4 of them got that decal on the back end, and I installed all 4 of them. I did get better, and that's just to say you'll get better the more of them that you do. Now, the very next Roadrunner that got these decals on the back end, the transverse, was our 70 Roadrunner from Mr. and Mrs. Zink. Beautiful car, lemon twist yellow, 4-speed car, originally a 3-speed car, but he made it into a 4-speed car. Again, when you watch us do this, it looks easy, but it's not easy unless you've done it quite a few times. And like I say, even for me that has done it quite a few times, it's still not easy. The really neat thing is how these can complement a car. That purple against the white on the 70 Roadrunner in the beginning. This yellow, lemon twist yellow with the black stripe, absolutely stunning. They just really go together and set off the back end of that car. After the lemon twist car, I installed the exact same decal on Mr. Martinez's Alpine white car. This car was a tribute to his late brother. If you remember, very emotional, very neat episode that we're so honored to have been chosen to do that. Much like the yellow and black, is when you stand back and look at the contrasting colors. That black right up against that white, it's stark, but it's good looking, it's sexy, and it looks tough. The last one that you saw me do was on the Toro Red 1970 Roadrunner. I was working with one of the guys that used to be here, training him in how to do it, because there is a lot to be learned. It came out great. He had a learning curve on it. We did have to fix a couple of things, that air bubbles and things, but those are to be expected. They just go with the territory. But overall, it really worked nicely on that car. You have the Toro Red with that black. That was our last one we did on a 1970 Roadrunner. The very coolest thing is that these are reflective. The cars today don't have reflective decals on them, but over the years doing these cars, we've tried to shut the lights out and catch that reflection just right. I think that's just the neatest effect. Now, one of my favorite memories all the way back to the very beginning, the first season of Graveyard Carz, was that purple car that I just mentioned. 1970 Roadrunner in violet with the white stripe on it. I had Emma. If you guys look now at a picture of Emma, Emma's 13, and she was a baby. She was brand new back then. I brought her out and I showed her the little Roadrunner head that I just installed. That was part of the dust trail stripe. The dust trail stripe is standard on a 70 Roadrunner, but you can delete it. V88 gets rid of it. In this particular case, it had it on there, so we had to put it back on there. The biggest difficulty with these is there's a pattern to them. Number one, you got to set the trajectory. You got to set it all the way back at the quarter scoop, and you got to set it right at the top of the wheel opening on the left or the right front, depending on side you're doing. The other thing is that dust trail is designed to go a certain way, so you have to look for the X's at the bottom of the pattern. I did on my very first one, way back before Graveyard Carz was even a thing. I put the passenger door on upside down. Didn't even realize that it came out beautiful, came out straight, till I stood back and looked, thought, that's not right. So making sure those things are laid out right and in the proper place and thought out ahead of time is the name of the game. Now, the very last time I did a dust trail was just recently, again on the Toro Red 1970 Roadrunner, same one that got the black stripe on the back end. That one came out beautiful. That car came out so uniquely cool because he did take a lot of liberties, as Tony says, as I've said before, but the things that he put on the car just really made it look right. And I love the dust trail stripe on it. I think it absolutely complements these cars. If I had bought one when they were brand new, I definitely would not have deleted it. So that's really a rundown of the different cars that we've done, how they come out, what they look like when they're up against a car, why you might want them, why you might not want them. This is the very first thing in the way of decals that Brian's ever done. He's been great at everything else, so I expect him to do well.
These are the first exterior graphics that I've personally installed. Fortunately for me, the Hemi Roadrunner doesn't get any other exterior vinyl graphics besides the birds, so it was a pretty easy start for me.
You know, this is great, this is funny. You know, here's what Mark does. So he gives Brian like a little Roadrunner, easiest decal in the world. Brian puts it on because they don't require any talent or effort. Then he comes up to me and just shoves it in my butt, how great Brian is at decals, how he's the man. My learning curve with Mark is he had me do a billboard. That takes up half the car.
Wow, we made it far before we had to get my dad.
Do you remember me saying not to get that part of it wet?
That's not an easy thing to do.
That isn't at all how it goes. See, you didn't know. See? I listened to it all now. I'm not playing your game because I'm eavesdropping because I knew you'd go off script.
I would know. I'm just
saying Brian did it great.
I'm just explaining the typical stuff that you do to me.
I wanted you to tell everybody what a great job Brian was doing, but instead you made it about you.
No, because he puts that little thing on, and then he's like, man, Brian's really got talent for this.
He is really good at it. And he's done a couple of little information decals, and I couldn't believe how nice they went on. But that's not the point. The point is, why did I give you the most difficult one in the world, huh? Why? Remember anything about it?
No, yeah. I don't understand, because as you gave me the most difficult one in the world, and you weren't a good teacher with it. You want to do it all on film, you pair me with Alyssa, you know I'm going to fail, and you want to film the whole thing, as opposed to doing it off camera and trying to use like a good teaching moment. You wanted to just make fun of me.
No, how it actually happened was I was putting decals on the GTX for Mr. Goldberg, okay? I was putting them on, I was doing a good job, and when I had to jump up to get in there to roll a decal around the edge, he goes, what's wrong with you?
I've seen Danny DeVito jump higher than that.
Like making fun of my stature,
No,
right?
whoa.
No, that's exactly what you did. So then you went in to say, no, it's crooked, and you got to list it and go on, and just your little partner in crime.
From right here, the top one just looks a little bit closer, like the space between the that
Right
free
there?
space between them.
Remember her, the one that you helped steal a car? So I just thought, you know what? If they're so big and so bold and so great at everything, put a billboard on sometime, right?
Which is fine if you would have set me up for success.
Remember what to
not
say,
fa-
believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see. Well, I'm hearing now, okay? You got that? Yeah. Boom, chakalaka. So I'm gonna go finish the monitor. I'm glad I'm listening now.
Yeah, me
Dougie
too.
was right.
Yep.
A lot of backbiting goes on in this place. A
yeah.
lot of
A
backbiting.
lot of it.
Yeah. Mostly pioneered by you.
Who taught me?
What?
Who taught me?
Who taught you? I don't know.
You.
Your dad, God rest his soul?
You. My dad's alive. Mark's a lunatic. I mean, that's real. I'm not just saying that. He's psycho. His shirt matches his actions. I mean, he doesn't kill anybody, but that not right mentality is there. Because I know you people at home, you laugh. It's silly, Mark. Some of you don't like it at all, but that's we should be done with all this by now. But he comes out with his headset, normal stuff. Guys, and it's just getting worse as he gets older. So I don't know where you guys come up with this headset stuff, kangaroo stuff. Clearly somebody's got too much money.
Still to come, with this epic 1969 Hemi Roadrunner about to take flight, Brian buttons up the final details,
And it's gonna be dead center here.
showing he has what it takes to perfectly place the iconic Roadrunner graphics.
And I'm just gonna work on centering it by eye.
Finally, a Hemi build as gorgeous as this car would not be complete without a proper road test. So Mark takes this shimmering A4 silver beauty to the beaten down streets of Springfield.
One look at the car, and you know this car was born for speed, not for looks and not for comfort.
This may have been a textbook build, but it remains to be seen. Will the test drive and delivery go off without a hitch? Find out when Graveyard Carz returns.
So I'm switching towels this time because I had a blue fiber get caught up in the beak of the bird on the other side when I was clearing off all the gel. On the two I just put on, they were running birds, so they're actually running, they're in motion. This guy's standing, holding his helmet. And it's gonna be dead center here, and I'm just gonna work on centering it by eye. On the other two that I installed, I had some tape in place to make sure they were dead on. This one, I'm gonna step back and make sure it's dead center on the trunk. See how it goes. There's one exactly like this that goes on the dash as well, inside the car. All right, I'm gonna step back and see what I think of that. I think we're good. The birds I installed all went on smoothly without anything lifting when I pulled the backing paper off. I use the application gel that Phoenix provides, and when you squeegee out the product, that decal is stuck on perfectly. All right, there he is.
Our 1969 Hemi Roadrunner is finally complete, standing proudly as a pristine example of one team's dedication to excellence and their undying passion for Mopar muscle. Subdued earth tones, bold contrasting stripes, subtle graphics, bullied by an excessive, oversized engine, make this car a detailed reflection of an era that would ultimately impact every aspect of American life. But to fully appreciate the present, you have to acknowledge the past. The future history of the United States would be profoundly impacted by the summer of 1969. The Woodstock Music Festival took place in Sullivan County, New York, during the week of August 15th. Of that event, Edgar Winter wrote, "When I played Woodstock, I'll never forget that moment, looking out over the hundreds of thousands of people, the sea of humanity, seeing all those people united in such a unique way. It just touched me in a way that I'll never forget." Only 6 days earlier, August 9th, 1969, the world was shocked and horrified to learn of the Manson murders, led by Charles Manson and his so-called family. The country grieved for the victims and began to heal from the exposure to this corrosive cocktail of evil and insanity. Manson later wrote in his memoirs, "A long time ago, being crazy meant something. Nowadays, everybody's crazy." Arguably one of the most famous, influential, and nation-defining moments in our history happened only 20 days earlier, on July 20th, 1969. Over 500 million people tuned in live to see Neil Armstrong as the first in human history to step onto the moon's surface and proclaim,
"It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind."
From our father's father, it's been handed down. The circle of life goes round and round and round. My hometown.
You can't stop history. It simply is, shaped every day by every one of us. Every picture, every smile, and every tear we shed are uncredited contributions to what will become our shared story. As you watch this beautiful Hemi Roadrunner traveling effortlessly through the streets of Springfield, Oregon for the first time on this day, July 11th, 2023, nearly 54 years to the day after the landmark broadcast of the Apollo 11 moon landing, Mark Warman would like to leave you with these words. History does not have to remember me for the cars I have restored. That responsibility lies exclusively with clients, their families, and their friends. These timekeepers of history that will tell my stories years after I'm gone. This is Graveyard Carz.
That's my hometown.